The stream is live. You haven't done the count.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the UK's #1 coral selling website, prestigereef.co.uk and reefdork.etsy.com for all your 3D printed aquarium accessory needs. What's up, YouTube? Hello again.
Were we on it at the very beginning going, it's starting?
Okay. I pressed the button and I was like, keep pressing. I was like, give me the bloody video. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the most professional podcast in the entire world.
We've only done 89 of these.
I know, 89. Ooh, we'll have 100 soon.
Yeah.
We've got to do something big. Ryan, get your biceps out or something. We are right. Yeah, what are we talking about today? We're talking about, this is going to be a good one today. We're going to talk about, and I've just been beard. We're going to be talking about what makes a great local fish shop, this is a really good conversation because there are certain things that you would think are really important, but actually aren't. But there's just loads of stuff, and we've had a few comments on the Facebook page as well. So we're going to go into it big style.
I'm actually really looking forward to this one because sometimes some of our chats are like, how do I put it? They're chat. We do them as something to talk about, whereas this is one that you can like really sink your teeth into, if you see what I mean. Because I think it'd be a really interesting topic, but also I want the chat to get involved as well, because if we miss something, like I want to know what they think, because it's interesting. Alex and I spoke very briefly before the show, and some of the things that he thought I didn't think of, but it actually does make a big difference.
So that we talked about doing a poll last week, and you asked me if I can do more than one option, more than two options. I can do up to 4. So there was. Do you remember what question you wanted to ask?
Well, they were going to be the options. But what we'll do is we'll go through the options later on, and then we'll do the poll as we're going through, like at the end for the news, if you see what I mean. Because otherwise, we're just going to reveal all the options now.
Okay,
just
fine.
Very quickly checking that my microphone's working, and I think it is. So yes,
it's all good. Yeah. It's all good. Right. So before we get into that, though, what have you been up to?
Okay, so I only have one thing to mention with regards to my week in reefing, and if you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you will have seen this already. So obviously, recently I tried selling some stuff on eBay. It was all right. It wasn't great. There's nothing up this week. Because I forgot and I didn't get them up in time is the honest answer. But I will be putting some up for next Sunday. So I've taken all the pictures already. But with that in mind, I thought I would try something. I thought I would test out what someone else on eBay was like. Like, what is it like for just someone to just buy from a completely random person? So I had looked to see what I was interested in. There were 4 corals that one person was selling. They were all ending on Sunday, and I'm not going to mention who this person is because that's not my place. I'm just going to explain to you the situation that I had. Yep. So I bought 3 corals. One was a Montipora and 3 Cephastries, and great. So we organised a date to have them delivered. That's the first thing. You never want a coral just to be sent to you, which I think has happened before to me previously. Someone bought them and just sent. And then you just hope. I know. I was like, I remember thinking that was lucky I was in, because if I wasn't in, then I wouldn't have been here to accept them. So
I mean, anyway, it's a safe bet with you. You never leave the house, so
that is true. I am here but sometimes I'm in the coral farm and I don't know if a delivery turns up when I'm in the coral farm. I've needed one of those Ring doorbells for like 5 years. But I can't fit one myself, so I just thought I just risk it at the moment. Anyway, so we arranged for them to be delivered on Wednesday this week. The package turned up. The first thing I realized was you always think that everyone's like you, don't you? Like when you assume something. So I assumed that the package was going to turn up how I packaged them. That wasn't the case. So Now the person was a reputable person. They had like 1,000 followers, 1,000 feedback. So it wasn't like it was just someone who's got 2 feedback.
Yeah.
The box turned up, and I opened it, and I felt the packages, and immediately I knew something was wrong because the heat pack was like stone cold. There was a heat. At first, I thought there was no heat pack in there, and then I was like, actually, this is stone cold. So I took the corals, and there was one that was in a little pot. I opened the pot and I put a thermometer in it, and I was correct. I was too cold. So then I went back and looked at the packaging.
Do you remember the temperature reading?
I'll be honest with you, I can't remember what it was now. But anyway. All I know is it was cold.
Okay. You looked at the packaging.
I looked at the packaging, and I thought, there's no hole in the side of this box. I literally just looked all the way around it, and I thought, this person obviously didn't realize that you have to put a hole in for heat packs to work, because heat packs work with, they need oxygen basically to work. And if the hole is too small, or it's not wet, if something's blocking it, it won't work. So then I realized when I looked on the inside of the box, there was a hole. But what the person had accidentally done was when they had taped the box up, they had taped over the hole. So the mistake was clear. It was as obvious as anything. So I did what I needed to do. I took pictures. This was all within an hour. Look. Later on, he claimed I didn't do it in an hour. I've never looked at the time that I sent the first message and the time, but let's put it this way, it would, as far as I was concerned, I got the box and opened it straight away.
People say within an hour is a DOA policy generally because they don't want you to come back 2 days later or 12 hours later, whatever.
Yes.
If you're an hour, if it's 2 hours, I don't think most people are bothered.
Yeah. I think the main thing is you don't particularly want the coral to go into the tank. Yeah. The other issue was, and I actually sent you a picture of the packaging, so I can't show people, but you'll confirm this. So I spoke to the guy, and he said, send me a picture. So I sent him the picture of the temperature. I sent him a picture of the condition of the corals, and I went, look, these do not look happy. These corals, they're I think they will die. And it wasn't the sort of the response that I expected. Now, remember, I'm doing this from memory, so I might have got out of order. So I don't want to misrepresent anything. But essentially, the guy went, "They'll be fine. Just put them in your tank. They'll be fine." I was then told that I had voided the DOA policy because I hadn't taken a picture of them inside the packaging, which one of them was in a pot, but the other one was wrapped in 3 or 4 bags.
Couldn't see it. You couldn't see it.
So I sent you a picture of this so you can confirm that this is true. It was literally, you could not take a picture of the coral. And I thought, that's clever, because the DOA policy says send a picture of the coral in the bag. And I got a picture of the coral in the bag and you can't see the coral. So I took them out. I sent them the pictures, and he's gone, "Yep, they'll be fine. Just put them in your tank." Within probably about 3 hours, the Montipora was dead. So now, when it comes to corals dying, generally speaking, if one coral dies in the box, it's pretty rare that other ones won't have issues, because they're all in the same environment together. Now, usually what happens is the corals usually get too hot rather than too cold. It's usually you're more like to overheat them than underheat them, which I think you did before, didn't you?
Several times. Shipping corals is difficult. I suck at it.
I've got it down pretty good now, and I like to. And throughout this whole process, I genuinely thought that I tried to be as pleasant as possible throughout, because what I would do in this situation is, so I have a 4-hour DOA. If someone applies, if someone says, "Look, this is a problem," I go, "Not a problem. Here is your money back." Or I'll give them a credit or whatever. I don't ever want someone's money if they don't want me to have it. Now, if they're outside of the DOA policy, but there is a possibility, and this happened the other day with a torch coral, where I think it was 2 days later, someone contacted me, and I just went, "Look," and I spoke to him on the phone, because I'd rather deal with things face to like one-to-one rather than by email. And I just said to him, what do you think the best way of doing this is? And in the end, we went 50-50, because that's fair. He will then be a customer again. I know he's lost out a little bit, I've lost out a little bit, but it's sort of the fairest thing to do in that situation. So I know what I do on the rare occasions it goes badly. Again, you assume that everyone is like you.
I can give you some insight actually into, because that's your job. You've done this a
Yeah,
million
yeah,
times. Okay, so you're literally a professional. I am not a professional at it. I don't like posting corals. I do it every now and then, and every time I do, I regret it. Mainly because I suck at it. It's difficult. You can do it. There are plenty of places that do it and do it really well. But if you
yeah,
don't know what you're doing, like me, it's really easy to get it wrong. And I've had times before when I've sold corals. I sold one recently. I told you about this before the stream. The other story I didn't tell you about.
yeah,
I had one recently where it was a bubble tip anemone. I pulled it out on a Friday because it just popped off. I was like, great. It was a bank holiday weekend, so the Monday. So if it didn't arrive on the Saturday, it wasn't going to get there till Tuesday. And I put it on Ultimate Reef, and I said, look, this is it's 15 quid. It was cheap, but I need it gone now. There's no DOA policy, so if it dies, tough luck. That's on you basically. You've got to take the risk. It didn't arrive on the Saturday. It didn't arrive next day. I sent it special delivery next day. It didn't arrive, so it arrived on Tuesday and it was dead. And I think I might have done something with packaging or something like that. But anyway, it would, from memory, and I might be misremembering this. It died over the weekend, and I'd said, "Look, it's cheap. This is on you. There's a risk here. You're not going to get anything." And in that case, he messaged me and said it's dead, and I gave him a refund. I think I refunded the postage as well. I think I gave him a full refund. The other example of an amateur, though, and this is a better example of being an amateur, I've done this probably a couple of times where people have said, I cooked a Zoa once and after chaos, I put it next to the heat pack or too close or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And it looked really pissed off. And the guy messaged me and said, look, it's not looking great. I think a couple of Zoas died. And then one of them's kind of half pulled through and was half alive. And I think I refunded. I was like, look, just see how it gets on. Come back to me in a week or whatever. And then I refunded, when he came back to me, I refunded the dead ones, and then he kept the other one. I think it was something like that. So if I'm selling like hobbyist to hobbyist, there's a bit of like give and take. And like, I think the buyer generally expects, you know what, I've got to do my best to try to fix this, because you're not buying from a professional, you're buying from a numpty. So there's a bit of back and forth like that.
Yeah. And as I said, it's more expected if you're buying like that, if you see what I mean. And there is the thing that drove me mad was the fact that responsibility was accepted for this.
Okay.
Like, so he
said he accepted that.
He said like, he said I'm not saying I don't accept responsibility. I'm like, great. So we now have confirmed that we know what the problem was. So I don't know if you've got my Instagram. I know sometimes you do. With regards to the pictures of the corals, of how they turned up. Now, the corals, he's basically said, put them in, they'll survive. Now, to this day, they are gradually getting even worse than the pictures that you're about to show.
I'm not going to show them because you might be able to identify, you might be able to find the coral on eBay. So
you won't be able to find them from my pictures.
Won't you? You sure? Oh, from your pictures. Oh,
yeah,
great.
From my picture.
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
So it's just so people can see what like coral and like basically the skin is like flaking off them. They do have the mildest bit of color to them, not the Montipora that died. Now, interestingly, the Montipora was refunded immediately. So now those are meant to be blown.
What Cyphastra is that? Bizarro or whatever.
I think it is. I think it might be a Bizarro. I think it is a Bizarro. I can't actually remember now.
Okay.
But you can see how it's mostly white with a very, very slight bit of color on it.
It's not yet dead, but it's not.
But it's about as close to dead as possible.
Yeah.
Now this is my theory. Yeah. If you went into a like a suit shop, for example, and you went in and you bought a suit. That one's proper dead. And you bought a suit, and then you got home, and all of the inner lining of that suit had come out immediately when it arrived with you. And then the people said to you, "That's all right. You got, here's a needle. You can fix it. Yeah, I'm not giving you any money back." It's like you go, there's no other industry where that would be accepted.
Yeah.
Now, is there a possibility that I can bring them back? Possibly. Like other people have like
that one. That one's not. It's not looking great.
It's not meant to be even remotely that color.
I know, that's a Jingle Bell Cyphastra. Right?
That's the one I think I could probably bring back the most.
And this one again, it's then a couple of them are not terrible. For an amateur kind of seller, the answer I would expect is, I'm so sorry. Oh, I've cocked up here. Look, they might be okay, 50-50 or whatever. That's the kind of response I would expect.
Yes. Yeah, and as I said, for me, this isn't even about the money now. Like, I'm annoyed more with service than the money. The money is actually not a huge amount. Like, but what it does do is, if let's say didn't come to me, let's say that those corals went to a new person. That new person now fears buying coral online because and I promise you, that's how it works. They then fear. Now, I think Christian from Signature Frags commented. He went, "Look, you can probably bring them back, but that's not how it should be done." And again, and if buying from someone who's reputable, who will absolutely look after you if things go wrong within that first sort of that period, like within the first day or so, or if you know what I mean, is incredibly valuable. Because this has actually put me off the idea of buying from someone on eBay, which is funny.
What would you have expected to happen, out of curiosity?
What would I expect it to happen?
Yeah, so rewind. You message the person and say, look, here are the photos. 2 of them are dead. 2 of them are not looking great.
This is what I would expect. I would expect, look, I'm really sorry. I didn't. You can obviously see that I put the hole in the box. I accidentally taped over it. There would be no reason for me to put the hole in the box and then tape over it on purpose. And like, how about what we'll do is keep them for a week. Keep them for a week, and if they die within that week, you can have a refund. Yeah, or keep them for 2 weeks. And if at any point in that 2 weeks, you can say keep them for a month at any point in that 2 weeks, but it wasn't. This was the response I got. I don't know what you've done with them after you've opened the bag. I don't know the quality of your water. And I'm starting to think you're trying to get free corals. And I'm like, This is the worst way to deal with this.
Because I don't think we've properly had this conversation. I was starting to think you had slightly high expectations because of the way you would deal with this situation. But actually, it sounds like the whole scenario was just kind of, it's just things go wrong, right? And these things happen. You tape over a hole. It happens, and maybe he was doing other things. Maybe he took his eye off the ball. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. That happens. Fine. It's the way you deal with it. And if you're blaming the victim, which is effectively what this is, it just gets you back up a bit, doesn't it?
It's like saying like, I don't know what you've done after you've opened them. It's like as if I've like put them in acid or something. I literally said, I actually think I replied, the only way I could make them look like this quickly was if I actually put them in acid.
Like, some people do, like you assume. I reckon that he's probably assumed that everybody's out. Sometimes you assume that if you're dealing with someone on eBay in particular, I've done this before. I sold an iPhone recently. I had bought an iPhone, hated it, and got rid of it. Went back to Samsung. I sold an iPhone recently, and it was mint condition. It was only a couple of months old. It was immaculate. And the guy, when it arrived, he sent me photos with scratches and chips on the screen, and they were massive scratches. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he said, "Look, this isn't what I ordered. I'm going to send it back." And I was like, there is no way that is the same phone. I went back and looked at the photos. I've got a good camera. I took really good photos. I was like, that is not the same phone. And what I assumed had happened is that he had a dodgy iPhone. He bought mine. Then he was like, I'll send back the dodgy one. So I was like, no, I'm not having that. You give me the IMEI number on that. I want to make sure this is right. And eventually I phoned eBay and they were like, look, just take it back. You've got to do it. So I was like, okay, fine. And when it came back, actually he was right. That was my phone. I checked the IMEI number. It was the right phone. Yeah. And actually when you look, he had flash photos. So it really showed up the scratches. And actually you have to look closely to see them, but they were there. It's just that they were bad photos. But my instant assumption was, people are out to rinse you and people are trying to rip you off. Yeah, so I think that's what's happened here. And because actually that guy, I felt bad. I was a bit stroppy with him in the messages, which I shouldn't have been. But I think that's what happened here. He's thinking, this is just another customer who's just trying to rip me off or whatever.
It's possible. It is possible. Like, and I even said to him, look, so I explained who I was and with the coral farm. I said, look, I've sent probably more coral than anyone else in the UK. Like I posted it. So I know, and we already established what the problem was. If you see what I mean. I even sent him pictures of his coral and my identical coral, because I've already had pieces of these already, to go, look, this is what it's meant to look like. This is what it does look like. So you can, I put them next to each other so you can see that there's a clear difference. But they're just, I got a message saying maybe you should be more humble. And maybe I should be more humble, but I wasn't saying it like, look how great I am. I'm saying, look, I'm not the average person. I know like that this isn't, I'm not someone with a little tank. I have thousands and thousands of corals, and I ship thousands of corals. And like, as I said, it's not a case that like I care less the fact that the corals haven't done well. They are literally hanging in barely. And there is, as I said, there's nowhere else. It's more the service I got afterwards.
Yeah, completely.
The interesting thing was, so he basically said to me like this, they would be fine. It would like, so I went, I'm gonna put this on Facebook and Instagram, not to like shame him. You'll notice I didn't put any pictures or I didn't messages, nothing from him. Yeah, and I won't mention it now. Just to get other people's opinions. And the majority of people said, in this situation, I would want a refund. Now, other people said, you could probably bring these back, but why should I accept the risk? It could take me 3 months to bring these back. And at any point in those 3 months, they could die. So why should I accept the risk?
I feel like actually you probably would have accepted it. If the reply you got was, oh, I'm so sorry, I've cocked up.
100%.
Look, the two of them look like they're gonna make it. How about we split it 50-50? Or how about you would you mind sit with it for a week and tell me how they get on?
Yep.
I think you would have been.
That's the other thing. Like I say to people, like I'll go, if there's a coral that's like this, where it's not done well, I'll go at any point in the next month. If you want to contact me, don't have to send me any pictures. Just let me know and just go, look, yeah, that's it. Like, so I accept that different people are doing things differently, and he's not doing it as a company and things like that. It's just, you just expect a little bit better, in my opinion.
This is the risk with buying online from people you don't know. So anytime I buy an Ultimate Reef, I very rarely buy and have stuff delivered. Occasionally I do, but 99% of the time I'll go and collect it because then I'm the one who's packaging it up. I've bringing my own bag or polybox or whatever, and I'm taking it home. I can guarantee it'll be fine. You don't have to rely on, because this might be. You said he's got a lot of feedback, so he's probably done it before. But in this situation, when you're buying from an unknown eBay, not someone you haven't dealt with before, you don't know how experienced they are. So you don't know how good at shipping they are. You don't know if they've done it before. So it's a real risk, and people don't. I think that's why people are reluctant sometimes. Basically, this sort of thing gives eBay sellers a bad name.
Yeah. The final thing that has sort of annoyed me a little bit, I think it was on Friday, and he said, look, I saw your post on Facebook. There's a possibility he's listening now. Yeah. If you are listening now, send me the money. Because he said, how about we do a partial refund? So he sent me on Friday. On Saturday morning, I replied saying, I think it was Saturday morning, it could be afternoon, I can't remember. But I replied saying, no problem. Whatever you think's fair, that's fine. Whatever you so I've gone, I don't want half, I don't want 50%, I don't want, like, they're the same thing. I don't want 75%. I went, whatever you think is fair is fine with me. Yeah. Okay. And then silence. So it's now been a day and a half at least, nothing. And I just like, now a few people on that Facebook and Instagram posts, and even in this chat today, have gone, you should name and shame him. You should do this. That's not the purpose of this. I don't want to do that, and I'm not going to do that. So if he is listening, don't worry, you're completely fine. Yeah? It's because that isn't the purpose of what this is. And when I saw those come in, I was like, I understand why people feel that way, but I also don't think that's the best way of doing it. The best way of doing it is to go through eBay and go, look, this is the right course of action. Yeah.
It might be tempting sometimes if someone pisses you off to out them on YouTube, but it's not a good idea. I would judge someone if they did that. So that's got a name as well. Have you heard of doxing? Do you know what doxing is?
Yeah. I think when you're I don't know if you're if you.
It's when a YouTuber turns the fan base on someone, and it's often when someone will say, "Here's the address of somebody," and they turn up, and the people turn up at their house. It's people with bigger followings than you and I. But
yeah, of course,
it's publicly trying to utilize the trust that you've got with your followers to harm other people. That's not cool. Even if in this situation you're potentially in the right.
As I said, I just thought this would be worth talking about because not everyone is equal. And I don't know, it left me with a bad feeling. Yeah. And Like, I don't know. Just, and I don't want other people to have that feeling. Maybe he will have learned from this. Like, I don't know. But it's funny. Licia said this is Ryan's villain origin story. That's so true. I'm
I
like,
don't know what that means. Is that a cultural reference or
no,
something?
no. So basically, like villains usually in like usually have something bad happen to them, and then they
Oh, I
turn into
see.
villains
This is
because
what
of that thing.
turns you into Joker.
Yes. So Licia is basically saying that in 10 years' time, I'll look back at this moment, and this was the turning point before I became a villain.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd say that's the only thing I have of interest to talk about this week. Yeah, so I will let you. I'll let you take over.
Fair enough. Well, I've got more positivity, so
Good.
this is good. Yeah.
Oh,
So
just
first,
quickly,
go
sorry,
on.
just very quickly. John has asked, "Have you left him a bad review?" At this moment in time, I'm still trying to resolve the issue. It is likely that I will leave an honest review. I will probably
Accurate
start
feedback is what East Coast
yeah.
Reef suggests.
I will probably start it with, I can see that this person has 1,000 other things who have had positive experiences. So the chances are it will be good. However, this was my experience. So just please be aware this is what happened with pictures and evidence and everything like that. Everything I'd sent him to go, because it's fair. But I don't even want to leave bad feedback. That feels like that's like a threat, leaving bad feedback. And it annoys people forever. If you have 99% positive feedback, every time you see that 99%, it will annoy you forever. And I did say to him, "Look, I've not had a good experience. I'll leave feedback." And he replied, "Everyone will get bad feedbacks eventually. You might as well be the first one." I'm like, none of this has gone well.
I hate bad feedback on eBay, and I just sell stuff I don't need anymore. I'm not a professional seller. I hate bad feedback. I sold just an old IKEA table, and this guy messed me around for a week with collection dates, was ignoring me. Really annoying. So I just cancelled it. I said, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm going to sell it to someone else." And then so I cancelled it, relisted it. He bought it again, and I messaged him saying, "No, that's it. You're done now. Sorry," because he lived miles away, so he was never going to collect it. And I cancelled that again, and then blocked him because I was like, "Look, I don't want you to be able to buy this." And then he left me bad feedback twice. I was like, it's so annoying, because now the trouble is, if I go and sell a camera in 6 months' time, people are going to look at it and go, "Oh, 6 months ago he pissed this guy off." Oh, I don't know about that, So it actually does. I wouldn't be so blasé about it. It affects people.
Yeah, it's
Although if you've got 1,000 good and one bad,
The other thing that I have found interesting. This is the very last thing I promise. So I've looked what other people sell coral for on eBay, and I've looked at what I have sold coral for on eBay, and the corals that I sell go for significantly more money than other people. And I think that's because of trust. I really, really think that's because people go, "I'm happy to spend a bit more knowing that that it's coming from the right place or a reputable place." Because I was amazed. Some of these corals I got incredibly cheap. Otherwise, and as I said, I already had them. It was because they were so cheap that I was like, why not? So, but anyway, as I said, over to you.
Sometimes stuff is reassuringly expensive.
Yeah, true.
So I've got a question for you first, actually, Ryan.
Go. Hit me with
Where's
it.
my Prestige Reef video?
Oh God.
You promised this weeks ago, and you were like, "Oh, I had to go and do something on Sunday."
I know. I saw my nan today, so I'm being a good boy. I'm like spending time with the family.
No. This. Don't use that. You've already used that
excuse. We've done my week in reefing. It's your turn. Look,
there have been 2 weeks at least since then that you haven't been hanging out with your parents or your family.
Yeah, you have to as far as I've always described it this way, and I'm sure you'll agree. And I am no artist, trust me, but I always think that it's like being an artist. Yeah, you either want to paint something or you don't want to paint something. And if you try painting something that you don't, and in a moment you don't want to do it, it's awful. Now my videos aren't great as they are, so if they can get worse, that's saying something. But
do you know what the Scream is by Edvard Munch?
Yes, there's that. Yeah.
That thing, yeah. He painted that when he wasn't in the mood. He was just like, "Oh, I'll just paint it."
You can tell it looks awful.
So... I actually made that up, to be honest. I've got no idea if that's true. But
is that true?
No, I'm probably not. Almost certainly not.
So
Anyway, well, all right. So next week.
Next week, yes. No, don't say next week. Oh, I just agreed with you.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. As I said, you go through stages where you feel it and when you don't feel it. And I don't mind doing the coral. I'm loving doing the corals at the moment. Just not enjoying doing the filming. Simple as that.
So actually, I had the same situation this week. I'm on a fortnightly upload schedule at the moment.
Yeah.
And this week was my week to upload, and I was trying to make a video about. I've done all the script. It was all ready. It was a video about electricity usage, because there aren't many videos, proper good videos, showing what the electricity costs are of a reef tank.
Yeah.
And I've set up energy monitoring plugs for the cade over my shoulder, so I've got a good data. And it's from January as well, which is the worst case scenario because it's cold and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be useful. I don't think it's going to be a massive view video, but it'll be useful. It'll be interesting, and some people it'll help them decide whether they want to buy a reef tank or not. But also, I got to the point where that tank, I've been neglecting that so much lately for the last couple of months. I hadn't even scraped the algae properly for a long time. And every time I turn around, because I was doing the video on that tank, every time I turned around last week to look at it, and I was like, because obviously I need to get footage from it and all that sort of stuff. Every time I turned around to look at it, I was like, it's just, I didn't have the mojo.
Yeah.
And I got to, I think it was Wednesday, and I've written the script for this video, so that's the hardest part really. But every time I turn around, I was like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to have to.
I know, and if you don't feel it, it's like you can't force it. I really believe that. And I remember from doing to some extent, I thought that doing that 30-day, which ended up being like 25 days or whatever series, would like reignite it for me. It actually fully extinguished it.
Made it worse, yeah.
No, the thing that made it worse, the thing that actually ruined it was the water box tank. That's what ruined it for me.
Yeah, totally.
And because like once that's up and running and good again and everything, and I can go, look, this is what I've done with it. It's got the corals are in it. They're happy. They're growing. The corals are doing amazing in there. All encrusted on the rock. You saw them the other day, didn't you? But when things aren't going well, you're like, I don't really want to show this.
I got to the point where, because I kept thinking that tank needed attention, and I kept thinking, well, this week I'm not giving it attention because I'm making a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? Sod it. I'm not going to make a video this week. I'm just going to spend time doing the tank. And then I thought, well, actually, why don't I kill two birds with one stone and make a video showing what I do to fix a tank in that situation. So
those are the best videos. When you're doing something you have to do, and you're like, oh, I'm doing both things at the same time.
Well, this is so on Wednesday, 2 days before it went up, I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do it. And I actually really enjoyed making that video. Yeah. And it was just, I don't know if it's any good or not, but I enjoyed making it. And there's probably some things that were useful, some aren't. But more to the point, go on.
No, I was going to say, it'd be interesting to see, because you end up enjoying making it. I wonder if you made it better than other videos if you don't enjoy them.
Maybe, who knows? But more to the point, that tank now looks absolutely fantastic. It's still not perfect, and there are a couple of corals that are still sulking a little bit, but the acans are way puffier than they were a week ago even, and just everything, it looks so much better. So now my challenge to myself is to keep on top of it.
Yeah.
We'll see if that happens, because it's normally this is like I'll do it and then 6 months time and oh no, I've forgotten it. But it looks so much better. And I got to the point, I keep every now and then I think about replacing that tank, going slightly bigger. I think about buying a second-hand Red Sea Reefer 170, which is a little bit wider, but it doesn't stick out any closer to me, which is important because I don't want any more taking up any more space. And I think, oh, that would be good. And then when that tank's looking terrible, I think I hate it. It's rubbish. And then when it looks good, that tank, there's no special corals in that whatsoever. There's
some of them are from me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they're Prestige Reef corals.
Yeah. There are no torches. There are no gunnies, and that's by choice. I wanted corals that are hardy. There's nothing fancy in there at all. I had torches in there for a time, but I don't anymore. Nothing fancy in there. That's a bang average tank. Just hammers, GSP, a trumpet coral, nothing special at all. Anybody can make a tank like that. You don't need to have years of experience. And when it's looking sad, it looks boring, it looks terrible. Yeah. But when it's looking good, and when your water quality is on point, and mine isn't quite on point yet, but when your water quality is good, any coral can look awesome. Even that trumpet coral, that looks amazing. You can see how brightly it glows over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Even that, it's looking, and it's not just the color, it's just so puffy and healthy, and So this is why, like, if you've got crappy corals in a boring tank, but banging water quality, it can look amazing. It can look really good. And I'm so much happier now I've got that at the where it needs to be.
That trumpet coral is so underrated. It's funny because people go, oh, that's green.
Totally.
That's green. Like all corals are green, but there's like green and then there's like green. And that's like green. For all the people who are listening that does not, I'm basically emphasizing that that's very green.
It also, one of the things, so trumpet corals don't like sway like gunnies or torches, but they do kind of jiggle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. True.
I like them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a nice tank. I like it now. Crazy how when you say how much you were going to spend on all the corals, how they can change. Lol. One is unique. That I don't understand that. I'm not reading it properly. Anyway, I just caught a comment caught my eye.
Yeah.
Never mind. We'll move on. And also, Serious Reefs. Serious Reefs is the project that BRS Ryan has set up on, and he's been doing it now since I think January of this year, or maybe December of last year is when the first video went up.
Yeah.
They're now uploading regularly, like 3 videos a week. You get quite often. It might not be that 100% of the time, but you regularly get 3 videos a week. It's going really well. And this week there was something that he said that I thought was really interesting. So the funding model, and now this is 100% for a fact, you don't get the videos on YouTube. Okay, so if you go on the Serious Reefs YouTube channel, you can't watch them. They'll be listed as members only. So you have to be a member, a YouTube member, which I think it's $9 a month is the cheapest, and $20,
which I am.
Which we both are, and $20 a month, which is the most expensive, or on Patreon.
Yeah.
So you have to pay money. You have to pay roughly $10 a month for the privilege of this. So that is a fact. This isn't just like in 6 months' time they'll all go live. That's it. You've got to pay. It's behind a paywall. Yeah. Okay. But he said a couple of things that were interesting. First off, they're giving away for a month. They're giving away free membership. So if you want to go and watch all the videos that are up there now, you can do that for free. Just make sure you remember to cancel it. Just, in fact, sign up, and then if all you want to do is just do it for free, sign up and then cancel straight away, and the cancellation should end after the month. So that's fine. So, but he said he's signing people up for a month. But all I'll say is this is like when you sign up to YouTube Premium. Suddenly, you realise it's good, and you're never going back. So you can kiss goodbye to 13 quid a month if you get YouTube Premium for the rest of your life. And this is the interesting thing he said. He said, you haven't seen this video, I take it?
Not the newest one. I am actually like plowing through their videos now. I'm like listening to them all the time. So
what percentage of people who sign up do you think stay on, and what percentage of people drop off?
I think I did see that video. I actually can't remember. I thought it was a larger percentage than I thought it was.
Much larger. So 84%, or it might have been 86%, 84, whatever. That is the retention rate. So 15% of people roughly drop off and say, no, thanks, this isn't for me. 84% sign up and pay for it and decide it's still worth $10 a month. That's a lot of money. Yeah. For a YouTube channel. Netflix is the same roughly.
I know, but it's a quality YouTube channel.
I know, but this is what I'm saying. But that's a lot of money, and yet 85% of people sign up to it and say, actually, this is good and it's worth it. That's really impressive. I wasn't sure. I didn't think this model would work, to be honest. It might still not, but I think it's going to. And if he's got an 85% retention rate, that's insane.
So John just said I wouldn't want to watch any pay-per-view videos or YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. What I would like you to do, John, is I would like you to sign up for that free month. I really, really mean it, because, and then next week on the live stream, you're in the chat most of the time. I want you to say I signed up and I watched some of the videos, and let me know your opinion, because these are a similar quality to the BRS videos from previously, weren't they? I would say. Now, the ones I've seen a bit more been talking. I don't know about what other types of videos. I don't know if they're doing experiments or things like that yet. I've not got that far in.
They've not. I've been watching yet, but it's coming.
I've been watching mainly the fish videos about how to keep things and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's what I would like you to do. Now it's up to you if you pick up that. Is it pick up the gauntlet or whatever they say? Pick up if you try that, because I have a feeling that you'll come back and you'll go, look, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't pay for this in the long run, but the videos were good. I have a feeling that's probably what will happen.
And there are a lot of people who just don't want to pay for anything on YouTube, and I completely get that.
I'm one of those people.
Exactly. YouTube should be free. Everything's on free.
Yeah.
Everything is free. So if you've got to pay for it, I don't want that. So totally fine. I think that's kind of the attitude that some people have, which will mean that you're only going to have a small potential audience for that anyway. But it is really good. But I was just really impressed. 85% retention rate, whatever it was. That's huge.
Yeah.
For an expensive, and I'm not saying it's bad value, but for an expensive, just for one YouTube channel, $10 a month, and you're getting an 85% retention rate.
I know, but when the alternative is to listen to you, I mean, it's like a no-brainer.
No, exactly. But there you go. That interested me.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to move on now to member questions. There were no member questions as of 41 minutes ago. So I'm going to go onto the membership post and I'm going to see if there are membership questions. There are no member questions, right? So we're going to move on to the Prestige Reef.
Are we? Are we going to move on to the Prestige Reef? I think we should go to the main
Prestige
topic.
Reef Fish of the Week?
There is. I was going to go for a vampire tang, but I might have done that before. I love vampire tangs. They're like absolutely one of my favorite tangs.
Horrible.
And the reason I wanted to pick one is because you don't like them.
It's grey. Look at it.
I know, but in the right lighting, in the right lighting, in reef tanks, they almost look like blue, and it's like a really subtle blue color. Especially the obviously the end of the tail looks great. They're one of the more peaceful tangs as well. Usually, now as always, someone in the chat will go, "I've got one of those. It's terrible," and that obviously comes down onto the hierarchy of fish you have and stuff like that. But I've got one in the coral farm, and I don't know why. It's just one of my favorite fish in there. And I've got much nicer looking fish in there, but that one just does something for me. So
can I suggest a better fish of the week?
If you would like.
Chocolate tang.
I've got one of those as well.
Have you?
Yeah.
You're not taking.
When they're juveniles, they're like well nice. They're like really, you can see there's a picture one there. They're like really, really bright yellow. Because they're actually mimic tangs, I believe. They're like the lemon peel mimic tang. I believe that. Yeah, they are. Yeah. And then they turn into.
Oh, I didn't know that was lemon peel. Interesting.
Yeah. So I've got one which started like that and then turned into obviously the adult. The problem with that is that you had a really, really nice bright yellow fish that then turned brown. So
actually, I've never seen one like that when it's proper adult colours. That does look a bit like a poo with fins, doesn't it? Let's face it.
That's one way to describe it.
I did see recently the guy I went to do a fish tank tour. He had one of these, and it was kind of half junior, half adult colours.
Yeah,
looked amazing. It's so nice. Loved it.
It's interesting because some. Like, if I said to you, do you like a freckle-faced tang? I reckon you probably will. Oh, no, I'm surprised.
This guy had a freckle face as well. They're not really my cup of tea. It's all right, but...
I quite like freckle-faced tangs, but they're not particularly colourful.
No.
So, it depends.
What can you tell me about chocolate tangs, Ryan?
I can tell you that they start off as they're mimic tangs, as I said, and they mimic the lemon peel tang. And the reason they mimic the lemon peel tang is because... lemon peel angel, is because lemon peel angels have this reputation in the sea for being absolute badasses. I think that's the reason that they mimic them, because lemon peels are aggressive, same as most dwarf angels are pretty aggressive, or more aggressive than tangs. And so why else? So they basically masquerade pretending to be one, and things leave them alone. In theory, I don't know if it always works, but what is amazing? Think about this. That has evolved to look like that fish.
So cool, isn't it?
Only as a juvenile. So as a juvenile, it's like, I'm going to act like this because hopefully other things will leave me alone.
When I'm small, I need something because I'm going to get picked on. When I'm bigger, I can take care of myself, but I need something to. That's so cool.
That is, and the way that I know you're people know this already, but the way that's worked is obviously there was some mutation in one of them. Which meant that one survived because it looked a little bit like another fish, and that just kept going. It just kept going over and over again. And you just think, I think that about camouflage as well. I understand camouflage a bit more because obviously if you've got like a lizard that looks like the leaf, then it's more likely to survive. So that will pass on. But to look like another fish is even more insane. So there you go. There's my information for fish of the week.
Interesting. So what I learned is I didn't realize they were mimic angelfish, mimic lemon peels. I've seen the mimic lemon peel angelfish tangs before, and I thought they look amazing. But I've always thought, I bet they'll be boring when they get older. But it turns out I love their older colours. So
have you seen?
It could be the perfect tang for me.
Ilibi angel mimic tangs. Ilibi, those are when they're really, really small, they look absolutely amazing. I got one from one of my customers the other day, and it's a fish that I sort of wouldn't usually have been that interested in, but you can see there's a couple of pictures. They look so cool when they're juveniles.
When they're juvenile, but these I've seen these, and they do look dull. But they're, as a juvie, that's awesome, because the Abley angelfish is pretty epic.
Yeah,
one of my favourites, and so to have it in a fish that won't eat corals, or hopefully won't anyway.
I don't think they stay like that for that long though. Most mimic tangs don't stay looking like that, because obviously as they grow, they'll soon be bigger than the dwarf angels anyway. So if you end up with that, that's the sort of fish that ends up in a fish shop because someone's taken it back, and people are like, what is that brown fish? I've never seen it.
Yeah, blue, orange, yellow, stripy fish, and now I've got a diarrhea-coloured fish with dead eyes.
So, and with regards to the coral of the week, I have not done a coral of the week this week. I was too big. The reason I haven't done it is because I really think that the next part of this is just me making stuff up on the spot. I think the topic of conversation for this is the main part of this.
Yeah, well, and actually, so I want to dial back weekend reefing anyway, because I'm getting bored of it. So I don't want it to. When there are times when we're just talking about stuff that's it's happened, but it's just boring, and this has got to be interesting. So I want to dial that back anyway. So I'm happy to pile in. So let's talk about the headline subject, and I've just written down the timestamp, which is. What makes a great local fish shop? So I've got a list of 12 things that I've pulled. If you're in the chat, do two things for me, and in the comments afterwards. Number one, tell me what your local fish shop is, or the one you go to most. And number two, tell me what you think makes a great local fish shop. So we'll have people have said that already, but I've missed it all. So we'll see what people say now. So if you've posted it before, post it again if you would. And the other thing, we've had a few comments on the Facebook group as well, the British Reefstock Show Facebook group. So we're going to talk about basically we'll talk about everything. But Ryan,
the first thing I wanted to say, so I've actually put quite a lot of thought into it this week, and the thing that I came to because I sort of realized is there's not many other shops of the same type that have this much of the scale between a good one and a bad one. Think about a clothes shop. Yeah, a clothes shop is a shop that has clothes in it, and all clothes shops look roughly the same, and you can get better quality. But you see what I mean?
They got changing rooms. Yeah.
Think about a food shop. Tesco's is basically the same as Waitrose or Sainsbury's. They might have different prices, but roughly they're really the same.
Yeah. There's more snooty people in Waitrose, but yeah.
I didn't hear what you said then. What did you say?
Snooty people in Waitrose.
Well, maybe.
I include you in that.
Thank you. It's just the nearest shop to me. Other than that, I've got to drive 20 minutes.
Of course it is, yeah. 20 minutes. Ooh.
Actually, to be fair, today I got a delivery from Tesco's because I wasn't willing to drive.
Slumming it. Interesting.
Why do you do this? Anyway, the difference between a good quality fish shop and a bad quality fish shop they're light years apart. I've realized, and I couldn't think of any other situation, and there probably will be other ones that are the same, but I couldn't think of anything where the difference between the two of them is that far. And then obviously in the middle, there's a load where they're sort of they're all right. They're not known as the best, and they're not known as the worst, if you see what I mean. They're sort of just somewhere in the middle, which is probably is the same with lots of things. So then I started to think, well, what did I do when I was younger? Because that was obviously when I was visiting fish shops the most. And for me, at the time when I first started, the most important thing, and it's not that now, it isn't that now, but it was then, the most important thing to me was price. So I went back to the same fish shop over and over and over again, which wouldn't be one. I'm not going to mention I'm going to say anything bad about people, if you see what I mean. It was probably a mid-range fish shop, I would say, but it wasn't known as being one of the special ones, and it wasn't known as being one of the worst ones. It was sort of just one of the ones in the middle. And I went there because the corals were cheapest. They were the cheapest corals. Variety wouldn't necessarily have been the best, but I didn't care because they at the time I was just getting corals, if you see what I mean, and anything would have done when you first start. Like you're like, oh, green subpipes, that will do. So that will do, and you sort of like mishmash a tank together rather than actually putting something in. What do you think? Has price ever been something that would have dictated what fish shop you went to?
Absolutely, but yes and no. So when I was first in the hobby, I discovered I don't know, a year or two in, I discovered a place called Reef Dreams in Winchester. Doesn't exist anymore. I didn't know that existed. Yeah, and the places I used to go to before, for those outside of the UK, there's a chain called Maidenhead Aquatics. They're based in garden centres. They're always attached to a garden centre, and they're a little bit hit and miss. They do freshwater, they do tropical, they do saltwater as well. And some of them are really good. Some of them are a bit average in terms of, and I'm just talking about the saltwater stuff because some of them aren't saltwater specialists, and so they don't have the expertise, tend to have worse or less well cared for livestock. And I used to go around to those places, and then I just suddenly discovered this place. There were a couple of other decent places, but I discovered this place in Winchester that was a marine specialist, and it's shut down a few years ago. The guy retired basically, but it was fantastic. The shop was extremely untidy. I hope you won't mind me saying, but it was brilliant. It was little bit.
Was it untidy, or was it just it was almost like I remember the shop. Everything was sort of everywhere. It wasn't
behind the counter. It was an absolute. It was like a bomb had gone off. It was. Really
I've only been there.
It was really messy, but there was a lot of stuff as well, and there was lots of old. Like I bought some mastic from there once. I got it home, and it was a year out of date, and like the package had faded in the sun and all this sort of stuff. So like there were some things that were just like. They weren't great about it, but none of that mattered because I looked around. I was like, "This is wicked," and then I went to the back, and they had this section out the back, and it blew my mind. It was like, I didn't know that a saltwater fish shop could be like this. It was so amazing. The corals they had were spectacular. Obviously, very well cared for. The fish were all healthy, all bright, and all this sort of stuff. It was amazing. But they were I don't know if I'd say they were really expensive, but they definitely weren't cheap.
Yeah,
and that didn't stop me going there. That was a place I ended up going to more than anywhere else. It's just when I got there, I was like, "Oh, I've only got 20 quid. Can I please have a Zoa?" So I wouldn't be buying the really expensive stuff there. I've now got to the point where that's less of an issue because I'd rather buy a fish than pay my mortgage, frankly. So
yeah, true. I know what you mean. I think. So lots and lots of people start in. I got into the exact same way as you. Like you went into a garden centre once, and all of a sudden, and they are absolutely vital as far as I'm concerned. Like them, some people like are not very complimentary towards some of the Maidenhead stores, but those are the stores that are building the hobby. I believe. Like most people, well, definitely for me and you, I don't know, but like because most people don't find a high street shop or a shop which is tucked out the back or whatever. Like they go into a garden centre and they go, "Wow, there's some really interesting fish in here," and it can be freshwater or it can be marine. And they at that time they don't know if the if the fish are healthy or if the corals have pests or if they're high quality corals or like it doesn't matter in that moment. They just are happy with that. So they obviously do have a place. Most of them are okay, I would say. Most of them are just okay. Yeah, there are a couple where you go, "Oh, there's something really needs to be done about this." Yeah. But you also get some absolutely exceptional ones, which obviously I will talk about later on in this. Yeah. One of them is your local, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, but the one I used to go to when I first started getting into, before I was in the hobby, was in Chichester. They don't do, it might not even exist anymore. They don't do saltwater anymore.
That was that was one of my first ones as well. Yeah,
brilliant. So Chichester, I love Chichester. It's a lovely place anyway.
Do you think we bumped into each other? Like at
probably,
some point?
Yeah. That'd be hilarious. So that was they had this softy tank, and I bet it's been shut down long ago now. But I bet if I saw it now, I'd be like, awful. But I remember I used to go in specifically to see that tank. They had a little Toby puffer in there, a Valentini puffer, and the thing I remember was that puffer fish and how crystal clear the water was, and the corals were moving and that, and it was just like, it was mesmerizing.
Was that at
And
the back of the shop? It was small
yeah.
tank.
You remember it? Yeah.
I actually do remember.
3 feet maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't massive. It wasn't like they had 2 big display tanks.
One of them aqua oak tanks, so massive oak, like solid oak.
I remember that exact fish and that exact shot, like the tank.
Interesting. Oh, so they obviously knew what to do with it, but that tank always that blew my mind, and that's what got me into it. Just a basic tank with a cool fish and some simple corals. And
so if you had not walked in that day, you'd be tens of thousands of pounds richer, probably.
No, exactly. Yeah. I'd be a millionaire by now. But yeah, so like that's the grassroots. And actually, Maidenhead Chichester was always a decent place. That was always good. And I only stopped going because they stopped selling saltwater fish. Basically, I'd still be going now if they still did. And actually, I think the majority. I can only actually think of one Maidenhead I've been to, which I won't mention.
No, I don't want people to.
No, but
do this,
that wasn't good, and it was just the tanks were dirty. There was fish that were like on their side, and it was very obviously neglected, and that was just like it was not good. And so, but actually, almost all others are all, like you say, they're pretty decent, to be fair. And for the first time you go in, they're amazing.
They're suitable for what they are, what they're
exactly.
for.
Yeah. Because they're not catering. They're not trying to cater to people like me who like the really fancy stuff. They're trying to cater to new hobbyists mostly, but a more broad spectrum. So, and they're very, very good at that, actually.
They also do an unbelievable service for basically everyone else, because think about all the higher end shops. Think about how many people they teach. Like at the beginning, before, like any shop which is in a garden center, the reason you go into the shop is because usually you're with someone. For me, it was my nan. Yeah, she loves garden centers. She wanted to go around and have a look at the plants, and I'm like, nah, I can't bother to look at the plants. I'm going to see these fish. I had no interest in fish. If you see what, like I didn't know a lot, but I was just avoiding something else, and it was like the lesser of two evils at the time. And then when I went in there, I was like, this is amazing. So those people are teaching everyone else the basics.
So, but anyway, there are certain things that I think make a really good local fish shop, and I'll see if everybody agrees or if people think differently. But the number one thing, and I've put this in bold, underlined, and in italics on my list.
Okay.
Number one thing: friendly staff.
Yep, I agree.
Just friendly. That's all I want. You don't have to have like great conversations with people all the time. You don't have to become really good friends with them. It's great if you develop that relationship over time, but just friendly. That's all I want. I just want you to be smiling and make me feel like, oh great, you're having a nice day.
They don't even need to be geniuses. No. But they do have to, like, the one thing that I would like people to do is know their own knowledge. Because what happens is you can pass on the incorrect knowledge, and then that gets passed on to the next person. But there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know, but this person might know, or I don't know, but this is what you should look into to find out. Because people sometimes people get, and this has happened to me on multiple occasions, they get carried away with themselves and they want to tell people something, like, even though they're not quite sure exactly what it is. And then they give you incorrect information. So you're better off going, people will trust you far more if you go, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know.
Completely. Yeah.
So, but I agree. Friendly staff, absolutely 100%.
It's very, very rare indeed, because everybody is friendly in this hobby, really. It's very rare that you have a bad experience when people aren't friendly in the shop. But if you do have that, you don't go back and you're like, you know what? Don't fancy that. Because it's a niche hobby, but there are enough shops around that if there's one that you don't like for whatever reason, you'll go to others. So,
interestingly, I haven't written down friendly staff on my list, so apparently that's not important to me.
Well, what's next on yours then? Because we'll alternate. How many have you got, by the way, on your list?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got loads. So, I would say, so these aren't in any particular order. This is just what came out of my head at the time.
Yeah.
Cleanliness, I think, is important. Tanks which are not green, Not loads of detritus sitting on the bottom of the fish like tanks. You can tell if a fish shop is being neglected. Like I believe so. I asked Ed actually at Moss End how often. I said your tanks are immaculate, and I think he said it's either every 2 or every 3 days they go around and siphon every single tank. So like that takes time. That takes effort to do.
That's tedious as well.
Yeah, it would be. Although, if you're doing it every day for like 500 tanks, every a few days for 500 tanks, you probably get it down quick. If you see
guess,
what I mean.
But that's like when people talk. People say like, "Oh, wouldn't it be amazing to run a local fish shop?" The reality is, you're siphoning sand and scraping algae. That's your job.
That's exactly. I just remembered why I asked Ed that question. So obviously, I have a fish system here. And I said to him, having a fish system is nothing like having a fish tank. Like, and I was like, they get dirty really, really quickly, like in terms of like detritus and stuff sits on the floor. And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, the only thing you can do is you have to siphon it out. So that's the reality. So
that's on my list as well. But I put clean tank /shop. So actually, so the clean tanks is the most important thing. The clean shop doesn't necessarily matter. There's I don't know, but tidy. There are some shops that are a bit dark and a bit like they've got like narrow aisles. Thanks very much.
Are you talking about Prestige Reef?
I'm not, but that sort of thing. You wouldn't go in and say, "Wow, this is really clean and tidy." Like you'd never get an Apple store like that sort of thing. But they can still be brilliant shops, and there's a couple of shops that I know that aren't. You wouldn't say, "Oh, wow, they're immaculate." But they're still fantastic. So that's not essential, but it does make a difference actually. And I went to Yorkshire Reefs the other week, of course, and that's very impressive. It's really open. So there's loads of space for a start, which is good because a lot of fish shops are quite small, so you can't like, excuse me, squeezing past, like rubbing up against people. I'm sorry, I promise that was an accident. But this place, Yorkshire Reefs, is massive, so they've got a real advantage there, and it's really nice and clean. It looks modern, but that's not actually
massive shops in the north because the rent is so much cheaper. You can't afford massive shops in the south.
Exactly, yeah. But that's not actually important. What is important is clean tanks and well looked after tanks. And if it's because that they're siphoning it every 2 days or whatever and scraping the algae every day, I every now and then I'll see a shop where there's algae on some of the tanks, and that happens. It probably happens a couple of times a week. But I still, every time we go in and I see that, I'm like, oh, yeah. You judge it because it's just no one likes dirtiness, do they? And you also, because it makes you think, well, if you're not scraping the algae, what else are you not doing?
Yeah, yeah. It takes me 2 hours to do the algae on the farm properly.
I bet.
And I only do it once a week, but like on a shop with like hundreds of little tanks.
Yeah.
But it makes a difference. Yeah, I remember something actually that I learned from a Maidenhead when I very, very first started, and I not learned for my benefit because I've never had fresh water, but the shop owner always made sure there was a plaque in every one of the freshwater tanks.
Yeah,
because supposedly it cleans all the glass for you, so you have to clean the glass way less. I thought that was clever.
But yeah, so I put the same, but I was focusing on the clean tanks rather than because when you go into a local fish shop, especially when maybe first time you look around, but after a little while you don't see anything. All you see is these little glowing boxes, and your eyes laser in. So you're like, there might be water on the floor, there might be dirt everywhere. It might be a complete hovel, but you don't see any of that. You just see the shiny fish. And so if the fish are all looking really healthy, the corals are all looking really healthy, and they're nice and bright. Sometimes, like the fish systems in particular, sometimes shops have really dim lighting, and other shops, and that must be partly because. I don't know why, but maybe it's because
they're T8 bulbs. I think most of the time they're not. Probably. They're like,
but a brightly lit fish tank with fish in them, it looks so much better because it just suddenly you're like, oh wow, that's really cool.
Isn't that interesting? That like so someone potentially like a shop potentially at the beginning. In fact, you said this about the fish system that's here. You said to me, the fish are nice, but they're not lit very well, so I can't like take a remember you tried to take pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
You went, they'll look way nicer in a reef tank. Now, the shop who had the tank before obviously is closed down, which is why I've got it. But people were going in there looking at the fish in that tank going, those fish don't look that good. Now, imagine if they were I'm not saying it's a difference between, like, you're trying to sell something. It could be the difference between making a sale and not making a sale.
Oh, 100%. Particularly, if I know that that's because of the lighting, I can see it fine. But if you don't know that, You're not going to go in there and buy that. So actually, TMC did an influencers day. I hate that word, but they did, and I was invited because technically I'm an influencer, right? I don't accept that, but okay. They did an influencer day a few years ago. They're doing another one, and a lot of their. So I noticed, because when you're setting your camera up, if the ISO goes really high, it means it's not got much light. And I found a couple of times their fish systems were a little bit dim, actually. And
I'm pretty sure their fish systems are just lit by the light from above. They're not. There's no tank light.
I think you're right. Yeah,
I'm 99% sure.
That's right. So that's why. And this is that's a wholesaler. So they're not trying to sell to the public.
Of course,
so,
yes.
But just like that for me, as when I was trying to video, I'm like, oh, I can't see the colours very well. And
but I just see, if I was going to set up a shop, I would never have thought that about the lights and lighting the fish appropriately.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's like when they light shoes and stuff, don't they? They have like underlight, like they in shops, things where it doesn't really matter. Like there's
glinting and gleaming. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We bought a new car about 6 years ago, something like that. Or we didn't buy it, we financed it. But we turned up and they got it into their showroom. It was only a Volkswagen, but they put it under this this massive sheet, like it was a like a silk sheet, to do an unveiling. And they pull. That is so cool. They pull this thing off.
Yeah,
and then it's these showrooms are so well lit, and this thing looked amazing. It was golf. It was nothing special, but it looked so good, and it was like shining and glistening, and like you go away going, oh, this is the best thing ever. And that's the same thing. If it was dimly lit and dingy, you'd be like, oh, cool, I've got a golf, cool, nice one. But when it looks amazing, when it looks really well lit.
It's interesting because with a fish shop, it would be different to almost every other like retail store. So like the person who I think started Sainsbury's or something, they said, if there's one thing that I want uniform with every single shop, I want it to be the best lit shop that you ever go in.
Completely.
And it's funny because when you go into a Sainsbury's, you're like, and you know that information. Next time you go in one, go look, and you'll go, this is like unbelievably like so powerful, the lights. Now a fish shop, if you have really, really blue white lights, it makes the corals not look as good.
Yeah.
So there's like a trade-off, I guess, between how bright the shop is and compared to.
Also, if the brighter your white lights are, the higher you have to have your the intensity on your LEDs. And and as a local fish shop, you don't want high par because you're getting corals coming in all the time. They're going to be stressed, and they're going to like less high par, even less than they would do it in normal tanks. So you don't want that. So there is a balance, and that's why a lot of local fish shops are a bit darker. And so, and actually, I couldn't tell you which shops are bright and which are dark if I don't notice. But that's part of the reason they're darker. And also, if they're really, I think is what you were saying, if they're really well lit, if the shop is really well lit, corals don't look as good because half the light is.
Oh, he's just frozen. Is this one of those things where he's frozen, but I'm still here? So if you can still hear this, let me know because I'll keep going. But if you can't hear this, it's something to do with me. No one in the chat has said they can still hear me yet. So maybe it is me. Nope. Oh, yes, Les can still hear me. Good. Right. So Alex is gone. He might be gone for a few minutes. So I will move on to the next thing. And so stock variety, I think, is really, really important. So when I say there's stock variety and there's also like interesting stock, they're two entirely different things. So variety is obviously having a whole range of different fish and corals of all different species. He'll be back because he just closed his screen down, so he'll be back in a second. So like variety, as I said, is about having a whole different range. They don't need to be the highest end like fish and corals because not everyone wants the highest. In fact, the majority of people don't want the highest end, the high end fish and corals. The majority of people want like just normal corals. So having the best doesn't necessarily make you the best fish shop, if you see what I mean. But a good variety of things makes a massive difference. And that was what I used to remember. So like, as I said, there was a few different shops I used to go to, and there was one that I went to regularly, and then you could go to a different one. And if it had lots and lots of just fish, just tanks which were full, like full tanks makes a big difference. And I've actually spoken to some fish shops previously, and Some shops get new fish in every single week, even if it's only just a few, because having something new to look at is enough. Yes, he's back.
Back.
Oh, he's back on his phone.
Yeah.
What has happened? I have not taken a breath because I've just kept speaking continuously since you've been gone.
Yeah. So my computer's crashed, and it's crashed hard.
Okay, so it's going to be a while before it comes back, is it?
Yeah, possibly. It's that's the message I'm getting at the moment.
Okay, not good. Anyway, I decided to proceed without you. I don't know if you could hear what I was saying or not.
No.
Okay, I moved on to the next one, and I basically said stock variety makes a massive difference with regards to, and variety doesn't, just for Alex's purposes, variety doesn't necessarily mean having the best stock, but having variety, like a whole range of different types of fish, and also different types of fish at different weeks as well. Because every single week you see a yellow tang in the shop, and that yellow tang gets replaced.
Yeah. But
you never see a powder blue, for example. You're always seeing the same things, and I think people like to see different things. I had something I was going to say then. Something which I found interesting, and he's gone again. That's not good. This is more directed at some of the shops, really, than probably. There was something that I noticed previously is that some. Alex, are you staying this time, or are you not staying?
Sorry, I pressed the button. I'm trying to turn the volume up. I pressed hang up.
Okay, fine. Anyway, what's your opinion on stock variety then?
Yeah, massively important. Absolutely massively important. So that's one on my list as well, because actually it's stock variety and it's stock rotation as well. So I want.
That's why I said, different things at different times.
There are so many times that you'll go into a shop, and it's like pen is incorrect. I'm back. I'm getting back in. I'll be back in properly soon.
That's right.
You go into a shop every week, and nothing changes. Okay, and it's just like you'll see the same thing over and over again. Maybe a couple of different corals, maybe a couple of different fish, and it's just like not that great. Whereas a really good local fish shop, and Reef Keeper is my example, of course. I feel like I can go in there every weekend and I'll see something different. And they make a point of rotating stuff, which is just hard to do, I'm sure. But they must have stuff out back that you don't see. But it makes such a difference, and that keeps me going back. I wouldn't go there every week, literally every week, if I didn't see new things. I'd just be like, nah, not bothered, mate.
Well, there's no point, obviously, if you're seeing the same things.
Yeah.
Something that I think I've noticed in a couple of fish shops before is why does he keep disappearing? It makes it very uncomfortable for me when you disappear. I'm like, I'm on my own.
No, I was just changing things.
Something that I've noticed that has happened with a few different shops is they will get a whole range of stock in, and then they will sell the best bits, and then they'll get a whole range of stock in, and then they'll sell the best bits again, but then there's 75% of the same stock again. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they'll get new stuff in, and then they'll sell, and it gets smaller and smaller, the difference is. And then they go, well, I got loads of fish in, but no one's buying any. And what's actually happening with a specific shop, and I've spoken to you about this before. I looked at his stock once, because obviously if you see the same things all the time, like you probably don't, like you came to the coral farm and you said, oh, have you noticed that this is a bit of a mess or whatever? And I went, no, to be honest with you, I hadn't noticed that there was salt on the side of the tanks or whatever.
Yeah.
And what had happened is people weren't buying the fish because I think 80% of the fish weren't reef safe. So 80%.
I remember. Yeah.
So if you've got a fish if you buy a yellow tank, that can go in any tank. That can go in a reef tank, it can go in a fish only tank, it can go in a soft coral tank, any tank it can go in. If you have 80% puffer fish, for example, they weren't 80% puff fish, but they were puff fish, large angels and things like that, then surely that restricts your buying capability. And I always thought to myself, if ever I owned a fish shop, which you never know. Well, one day, never know. I would always pay very close attention to what the fish were that were in stock, and I would make sure that 80% of the time the fish could be bought by anyone. Now that might be
Yeah,
that might be
completely.
unachievable. I don't know. Remember, I've never owned a fish shop, so I don't know if that's
But
possible.
most shops I see, they will get in unusual fish like that leather saddleback file fish or whatever that popped up in some shops recently. They'll get in unusual fish.
I don't know what that is. I'm gonna Google
It
that.
was really, it was like a 6-inch long, really weird file fish. Anyway, they'll get in fish like that from time to time. But the bread and butter, 90% of the fish are clownfish, wrasses, gobies, the usual stuff. And yeah, there'll be things like lemon peel angelfish or whatever, really exceptional fish that are not necessarily reef safe.
Yeah.
But the vast majority are the fish that sell every week.
Yeah.
Banggai cardinals.
Yeah.
That everybody wants.
Yeah. If like you can have a whole range of different tangs in, but don't have like pufferfish, lionfish, like
because that is
fish.
niche. This is a niche hobby already. Don't you know? If so, don't limit yourself to own, because you're not going to get millionaires with fresh with 10,000 gallon fresh fish only tanks coming in all the time. You're going to get Joe Schmo who just wants a clownfish.
Now look, there may very well be fish shops listening now that go, what does he know? He doesn't have a shop. He has, and that may very well be the case. And
the whole point of this, and this is important actually, it's a good point to make. This is you and me we're hobbyists. So if there are shops thinking, shops won't be like thinking what you don't know what you're talking about. But if there are, this is you're listening to a conversation between two hobbyists. This is what people want. So you know, I'm not saying I'm representative of everybody, but this is a fairly typical hobbyist conversation. So.
I would only ever want to get those sorts of fish in if it was all like, it's nice to have them on like a rarer, not a rare, like you always have to have a few of them in, but I like it ties up your money as well. As a shop, you need to be able to like move like stock relatively quickly, and something that sits there for 4 months. I remember seeing fish that have been in shops for a year. I am not exaggerating. For the entire year, that fish has been like holds your money in that fish, and at any moment it can die. So, but anyway, we've digressed, haven't we?
We have a little bit.
On to talking to things that I don't know about.
I'm just going to pose a question because Les a minute ago said, "Alex, get rid of that stupid Dell." So my computer is a Dell. It was expensive. I don't mind telling you that, because editing computers you need a powerful one. So it cost me a bloody fortune. But it's 2.5 years old now, which shouldn't be old, but it's a new tax year as well. So I would be up for buying something new. So Les, mate, tell me what you would recommend instead. I don't want to go Apple, and I think you hate Apple as well. Well, I would do potentially, and if there are any other computer guys, tell me what you would recommend for a 4K editing computer. Carry on, Ryan. What's next on your list?
Well, I think it's your turn, isn't it? I've just done variety.
Variety of stock, and I've put brackets rotation. Okay, so actually, you know what? This is so next on my list is, and this was actually second on my list, was knowledgeable staff.
Yeah,
and I've put brackets help with advice and understand how to look after them. So this goes back to what you were saying a minute ago. They don't have to be super knowledgeable. And actually, for me, I don't go into a local fish shop looking for advice. Sometimes I do, but that's not like the primary reason I go in now. When I was first in the hobby, you betcha, I was like, let's see how many hours of conversation of advice I can get out of each shop.
Yeah.
So absolutely doing that, but that's actually not important to me anymore so much. But I still like to have someone there who knows what they're doing. But the reason that's important, so to some people it'll be really important because that's your best source of knowledge, because you can go on a Facebook group or whatever, and you can watch 10 YouTube videos and you don't get quite the right answer, and it's just not right. Whereas you go to a local fish shop and you have a one-on-one conversation with someone, man, that's so much more valuable. Like your consultations, which I always talk about. But it's not just the being able to advise people and help people. It's also, if you've got knowledgeable staff, they're going to know how to look after the animals. They're going to know what's so they'll be able to keep a wider variety of corals. If something's going wrong, they'll know how to fix it. All these sorts of things. They'll know that if they get a coral in that isn't looking healthy, that they need to go and look after it and they take it out of the shop or whatever. So actually, knowledgeable staff translates into a really well-run shop, because they have, you can see that this is actually ultimately this is one big fish tank for people. So if you can look after your tank, you'll have nice stuff. I
would add to that, because it fits together, is staff that care as well. You can tell the difference between a shop where the staff care and the staff don't. you can absolutely tell the difference. And when I say care, I mean like they take pride in their work and they want to be the best and they want to make sure it's great and they want to help as well. But also being able to communicate in the right way also makes a massive difference, because people, there is no way you can go really to learn this. It's literally learning from each other. There's no like school you can go to. There's
a Reefing University at the Coral Centre.
Oh yeah, they did that, didn't they? I don't know if that, but that's a great idea as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
For the people that took that up, probably have found it to be useful. And I'd be interested to know if there anyone who has taken that up and what they thought.
Anyway,
yes. So as I said, staff that care goes well with knowledgeable. Am I moving on to my next one, or are you done with yours?
Go on then. Yeah. I'm looking at people talking about PCs. If I'm honest.
Okay.
George G Tech and Les are talking about custom build.
Again, there is no particular order, and this is definitely not the most important. Mm-hmm. But once you've done all the other things that are going to be on our list, I think interesting stock as well goes well. And when I say interesting stock, I mean if you have the chance to see something that you would never normally see, that is like, for example, we both saw that, I think, the same masked swallowtail angelfish at Reef Dreams. We both saw the same one. Oh no, because I saw was it Reef Dreams? Yeah, Reef Dreams was where I saw mine.
Last one I saw before the one I bought was Reefkeeper Windsor, which is before it moved.
Oh no, so yeah, the one it probably was the same time. They usually come in at the same time.
In
yeah.
Batches, yeah.
So I saw it in Reef Dreams, which was a male, and you obviously, I think you saw a female, didn't you?
Yes, the better looking one.
We already did the poll on this. I definitely won. And I think that having a shop where this is not for every shop, this is for the ones that have got everything else right. Because as I said, like if you want that special fish, which might cost 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 for people to see, then like most people aren't going to buy that, which means the chances are it's going to be sitting there for a while potentially, unless you have high-end customers. But it's just nice for people to be able to. I saw the first king eye at I think it was Moss End or Windsor, one of the two. It was one of those ones. Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, that is a cool fish. Like that's something I've never seen. I remember that day because I experienced something that day. So I think that makes a difference. But that's a later on aspiration for an already great shop. That just was on the next on my list. So there you go.
I've got some boring ones that are actually really important next on my list.
Okay.
First off is location/parking.
Parking is essential. Like it makes that parking makes, I really, really believe, makes the difference between a shop that will stay open and a shop that won't stay open.
Yeah. So Reef Dreams was the worst parking shop that I've been to regularly. There was parking around there, but it was often, it wasn't, they only had like 2 or 3 spaces that you could park in, and you were parking up the road, and it was a residential area, so it was always busy, but you went back because it was so good. But you need a lot of the Maidenheads they're in garden centres, so they have big car parks, which is wicked.
Yeah.
But if you're on a high street or you're somewhere where there isn't any parking, it suddenly becomes an effort, and I'm not going to bother. So yeah.
I've known of 2 shops that are on high streets. Neither of them have stayed on the high street, as in both of them have gone.
I can't think of any high street shops actually.
What's the other one? What's the one the way I got the tank from? It was over in Bex Hill sort of way. I can't remember what it was called, but either way, I remember when I turned up to pick those tanks up, and I immediately went, I know why this shop was closed, because they had a relatively good reputation, I believe, and the people that were going there were sad when it closed. So they had customers, but like there was no park. There was like 1 space parking right outside the front, and I just thought, if that space is taken, and you've got to lug like barrels up the hill or something, that would be terrible.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. 25 kilograms a pop.
Yeah. There was another one that was interesting, which I think killed a fish shop that was in Billingshurst here. Like it was always free parking, and then one day they changed it and you had to pay 25p parking. Now, it doesn't matter that it was 25p. It's the hassle of going to the machine to put 25p in that I think killed that shop. Yeah.
Well, it's because like plastic bags now in the UK, like a couple of years ago, they have to charge for it. So they went from, you go to do your local your food shop at Sainsbury's or whatever, and you carry a load of bags back, no problem. Then they change it to 5p per bag. 5p, and if you're spending 200 quid a pop on your weekly food shop or whatever, 100 quid, it doesn't matter. But people are, I'm not paying 5p. I'm not paying 5p for a bag. So it matters. And like, it's the same with 25p for parking. Like, I'm not paying that. So
well, after they did that shop was there less than a year.
Yeah, I'm sure there was more to it than just that, but that was probably a significant factor.
Yeah, it's because all of a sudden you go, I don't want the hassle of having to do it. Life needs to be as easy as possible for people. Otherwise, people just won't do it.
We've had a super chat from Grim Carnage. He says, I'll pay for Ryan as soon as he brings back Randy, which is, I presume this guy's earlier on in the live stream.
Yeah.
And he's talking about Serious Reefs. Randy is never coming back, but he would be wicked. He would be the perfect foil for BRS Ryan.
I don't think Randy wasn't fired, I don't think. Randy moved on to
he left.
He
went to do guns, didn't he? Because America.
So, yeah, true.
But yeah, he'd be cool. We've said this before, but he's one of those people who he used to get a bit of stick in the comments. I used to see people would be a bit mean to him, which was always unfair. Yeah, every now and then. Most people were nice, but he just did. And then when he left, suddenly everyone was like, oh my god, he was awesome. I didn't realize how good he was. And then so like it's like you're missing when he's gone, and people do. But it'd be really cool to have him back, but I doubt he'd come back. But anyway, what's next on your list?
Clear pricing. Now, this is one that I don't do at all. But remember, the majority of my sales go through the website, so I have clear pricing on the website. And if people come to the farm, the pricing is obviously they can clearly easily look it up, or I look it up for them. I never want anyone to come to the farm and think, and this does happen with, like, some people feel this way in shops where they go, oh, that guy turned up in a Ferrari, that coral is now 100. I'm not saying shops do this. I'm saying sometimes people think that happens.
Right.
Because the people have told it to me, they've said it to me. So like they feel that either because they've turned up in a nice car that coral, because there's no prices. Like it feels like, is that person being dishonest with me, or is that it? Yeah, completely.
Well, so unfortunately for me, I don't yet have a Ferrari. Obviously, I'll get one. YouTube makes the big bucks, so it's only a matter of time. But I have had. There was a time when I went into a shop and I said, "Oh, I'm after." They had like half a dozen rock flower anemones. And I said, "Oh, I'm after a couple of your rock flower anemones," and they were different grades. So, like, some of them were just red and green, boring. Others were really brightly coloured. I said, "How much?" I said, "I've got 301." He said, "How much are they?" And he was like, 55 quid. And I was like, "I haven't told you which ones yet," and it's because they weren't priced up. And I was like, "There's no way you know what the price is." So now I'm like, "Well, are you making it up?" And I'm not thinking that you're singling me out to rip me off. But I'm thinking you're making that up because you didn't know. There's just no way of knowing. I've got pricing on my stuff being priced out on my list of nice to haves. Because there are some shops that don't have prices everywhere. Like places like Reef Keeper, it's all like in rows and it's really you can just walk in and see it's easy. But there are other shops. There's one that I go to, Aquatic Emporium, which I talk about from time to time. Fantastic shop. If you're anywhere near West London, East Surrey, head to Aquatic Emporium. It's brilliant, but they don't have clear pricing on everything. So sometimes you got to go back and be like, how much is that? How much is that? How much is that? How much? I mean,
that's people also don't like. This is actually people don't like that. You don't.
Yeah.
If you go, oh, how much is that guy? And they go, that guy is £300. You're then like,
now I've got to show that I'm poor and I can't afford it.
But to some extent, yes. It is like that.
Yeah.
It's like, or you go, actually, you almost feel like you're going, well, that's not worth that much. Like, so you almost feel you're
embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because we're British and we're too polite. But that's the reason I put that on nice to have is because there can be shops that don't do that and they're still fantastic. But it is so much better when everything's clearly priced up.
There's something that I wanted to mention, actually, that someone said, mentioned on the Facebook group. And they said, how come I can go into one shop and they actually, again, they use Maidenhead as an example. And the reason that you can use Maidenhead as an example is because they're all like, people think that they're all roughly the same as well. They are owned by different people. But what I mean is, like, so in one shop, they'll go, well, there was a yellow tang in there. I'm just going to pick a random, but I say it was £100. It wasn't, but I've just picked a random fish. The first one came to my head here. And then in another shop, that yellow tang was £200. How come one shop can sell it for £100 and one shop can sell it for 200? Now, yellow tanks are a bad example of this because they're all tank bred.
More than 200 quid.
Yes. But okay, let's say it's a flame angel.
Yeah.
Well, one of those shops is probably getting it from a wholesaler. And the wholesaler is bringing the fish in, feeding it and looking after it for a period of time. And the shop buys it from them. So that there's a much smaller margin on that fish. The other one is getting it from an importer. And the only reason I'm addressing this is because it was mentioned someone mentioned it on Facebook. So the shops which usually have cheaper fish are usually importing their fish. And imported fish are cheaper, but they usually come with more risks because the fish has just come out of the ocean. It's gone to a facility, might have been there for a couple of days. It's then probably not been fed for a while because they don't feed them before shipping them to reduce the waste. And then it's arrived in the fish shop. And then it's the fish shop's responsibility to get it feeding, get it healthy, make sure it's disease-free. Whereas from a wholesaler, they've done that for them. So that's the difference. You're getting different qualities of fish in theory.
So I remember this was when I lived in Havant, so about 8 years ago. I bought I was looking for a yellow long-nosed butterfly. I'd seen one in a shop for 25 quid, and I went to my local Maidenhead and it was 50 quid. Yeah. And I'd seen them everywhere for 25 quid. And I was like, why is this so expensive? And I asked if they'd price match, which was always going to be optimistic. And they said no. I was like, okay, no worries. I'll go elsewhere. And I went and bought the cheaper one, which died.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that actually that's not just one shop is ripping you off or whatever. They're a quality of livestock. So TMC is the main importer. And I think they're probably more expensive than other places. Not because they're just ripping you off and all their staff are driving around in Aston Martins, but because of the things they do to take care of the fish, and they reduce supply lines, and they run UV and they look after fish and all this sort of stuff. So it's not just some of it will probably be if you go to a place where they have cheaper rent, they have cheaper overheads, so they can afford to sell stuff cheaper. But that's probably marginal. I reckon most of the time it's because you get what you pay for. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted by the comments, and there was something that was going. I think it's fine, but I thought we had offended someone, but we hadn't offended someone. So I just wanted to make sure that was what I was reading. But it's fine. Well, you can move on. There's no point in even looking into it.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't us that they were referring to.
Oh, by chatting to each other. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Because I would hate to offend anyone, if you see what I mean. It's like by
put them
saying
on your list, Ryan.
yeah, true. We offend lots of people. So anyway, I'll let you keep going. I missed the last probably minute of you talking because I was busy making sure we didn't offend someone.
Fine. So, well, anyway, basically, you get what you pay for with fish.
Yes, true.
If it's cheap, ask why it's cheap.
Yeah, always. There is no problem with asking where a shop gets their fish from. There's no point in there's no a shop shouldn't worry about going, oh, these fish were imported. They shouldn't worry about going a fish came from a wholesaler, because they might go, yeah, they're imported. They came in yesterday, but we're going to leave them for a week and then have them. You see what I mean? That's
actually a really good point, because there'll be some shops who do only buy import direct to web, and they'll be like, no, don't say that. But actually, that doesn't mean if it's cheap, it doesn't mean it's terrible. It's just about risk, isn't it? And it's just
I know firsthand.
So it might be completely fine.
Yeah, I know firsthand from importing fish that fish are not the same as corals when you import them. They're just not. Okay. As in most corals are fine usually. Fish, it's like it can be hit and miss, like because they're not meant to be in bags for 40 hours being shipped across the world. And a coral doesn't overly care as long as it's kept the right temperature.
Doesn't know what's going on.
Whereas a fish is like there's more stress involved. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we'll move on.
Good stuff. So I've got two more on my must-haves, and then then two more on my nice-to-haves. So one on the must-have is, and I mentioned this before the stream to you, RODI water, good RODI water, zero TDS, or near enough zero.
100%. If you are buying RO water from a shop, you should have your own TDS meter. 100%. And don't go into a shop, fill your barrel up, and then put the TDS meter in. If you really want to know the quality of the water, go into the shop with a cup, something which is absolutely spotlessly clean. Yeah, fill the cup up with water and then put the TDS meter in. This is one of the things where there is a whole range of what shops sell RODI water as. Some people sell it with 0, some people sell it with 40. So, and as far as I'm concerned, if it's 40, it's not RO water.
No, and I've said this before a while ago. There was there was a shop. I won't say. There was a shop in a place.
Okay.
And I went in and I was like, I filter my own water, so I don't really care. But I needed water one day, and I was like, what do you run your TDS at? Expecting them to say like 2 or something.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we never let it go higher than 80. And I was like, 80? Are you kidding me? Like, would you even drink that? Like,
it's look, if you have small tanks, and by all means buy it from official. I did a consultation with someone a couple of days ago actually, and the fish shop had told them that it's cheaper to buy RO water from them than it is to make it yourself. And this person had a tank which was like 1,000 liters. So for over a year, they had been buying all their water from the shop. Now,
it's so much cheaper to filter it yourself.
It is so much cheaper. Now, that doesn't mean this isn't me saying don't buy it from a shop. This is me saying buy an RO filter from a shop, because then the quality. If you see what I mean. I'm not trying to take the sales away from a shop.
No, completely.
But
you won't ever, because there are plenty of people who rely on their local fish shop. But that's why it's important. So I don't buy water; I filter it my own. But it's really important. Shops that do it well, that sell 0 TDS water. That's brilliant, because then that means your customers want that water, and then they'll be like, well, whilst I'm here, that's a nice coral. I need a new light. Oh, that clownfish looks pretty.
Yeah. That's the one thing I've always thought about the coral farm. People can only buy obviously the corals from me, and they come in specifically to buy corals. There are no impulse buys when people come to the farm. They come for a reason. Whereas and there'll be times where I won't see people for weeks. Now, those people, if they were coming to me for water, for example, in those weeks, they might have bought a coral as well, just because they happen to see it. So buying water, again, I agree with you, is a way that it gets people same as fish food, gets people back in all the time. So you mentioned spotless. Is that what you mean? You're talking about spotless water?
Les mentioned spotless water, so I actually don't really care about spotless. But so there's a service in the UK called Spotless Water that they sell window cleaning water. Basically, they've got like a hub somewhere, and you can go and fill up your barrels with water, and it's relatively cheap. So I've never used it, to be fair. I just never would do. And there are loads of people who've used it for a while and they swear by it. But exactly, it comes out of a petrol.
I know. That's what I mean. You don't know what the inner workings of that machine are. Other people, people have success with things until they don't have success with things, usually.
Yeah, completely.
So you don't know what could be. They might be. I've never used it myself, so I can't really comment.
Same. Yeah.
It's the same as people that use natural seawater. I used it for years. I had problems in those years. Were those problems caused by the fact I had a cigarette in it once? You see, it's true. I literally collected natural seawater and it had a cigarette in it. And I'm like, probably shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah. But that's so regardless of where you get it from, it's so much better to buy it yourself. I did the maths on it once on
a unit.
Yeah. Sorry, your own filter. I did the maths on how, because an RODI filter is quite expensive. It's north of 100 quid for one with probably 150 quid for one with 4 stages and a booster pump, which is really what you want. Because if you don't have a booster pump, man, it's slow.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take long at all to make that back, because the amount of water you get through with evaporation, with water changes, if you're just setting up a tank, filling up your tank, petrol to go back and forwards to the shop, lugging these heavy barrels around, getting water on your car, dragging them, it doesn't take long to pay for itself. It really doesn't. If you buy the salt and mix it yourself, it's really easy. But also, first off is costs, but secondly, and more importantly, it gives you control over your water. Yeah. So if I notice my TDS meter is going to 1 TDS, I can say, okay, it's time for me to change my sediment filter, or probably the DI resin, to be fair. But it's time for me to change something, and you have control, so you know exactly what you're getting, and you don't know when you go to your local fish shop. You might have a local fish shop that every time you go in, they've told you it's 0, but actually they haven't checked the TDS meter that morning, and it turns out it was 10 or whatever. You know,
it never goes from 0 to 10. It goes from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah, exactly.
4.
But whatever, you don't know. The only person you can trust in the world is yourself, because you care more about your fish tank than anybody else. And there are plenty of shops that sell good water. I'm not saying that people are ripping you off and telling you it's 0 when it's 400 or whatever. But just you can't beat the control of the water you filter.
I understand for people that have small tanks, like, because the cost to recover it will take a long time.
That's true.
If your tank is like 300, 400, 500, anything above a 300 litre tank, I would say.
Doesn't even have to. I worked out on a 3-foot tank, and it wasn't. You have to mix your own salt water as well, but it really didn't take long. Honestly, it was. We were talking a few months.
There you go.
But what else?
So there's sales of RO units will shoot up now.
Should do, yeah, they're brilliant. I think in my YouTube videos, I put various links of Amazon links. I don't know about you. Amazon does not pay a lot of money in terms.
No, not for me at all. Basically,
not at all. I think I get paid every other month, and it's like 20 quid or something. So it's not a lot, but I'll still put them in anyway. One of the affiliate links, and it might be outdated, but one of them is an RODI filter that I found that is really good. It's 4 stages with a booster pump, and that's all you need.
Yep, I agree.
But just don't just buy it from your local fish shop. Far better. There's one last thing on my list of essentials of really good stuff, and that is dosing liquids, food, and salt mix variety.
I've put dry goods variety.
The reason I expressly put those down instead of just dry goods, because like most people, I think, buy things like lights and skimmers online.
Yes,
you should always buy from your local fish shop, but actually that's one of the circumstances when you don't really get any benefit buying it from your local fish shop. In fact, if anything, half the time they might not have it in stock. So
1 second, I'm just going to add all local fish shops to the list of people we've offended.
Apart from those online, and they bloody love it at the moment. Yeah. But it's not that you shouldn't do, but it's just I don't think there's much benefit. And I try to from time to time, but I buy most of my dry goods online.
What about supporting your local fish shop?
All about supporting your local.
So there is some 100%. Benefit.
Oh, completely, yeah. But if you're being selfish, but the things that you do need, the stuff that you use all the time, consumables, food, fish food, and if you're the type to feed your corals coral food, salt, because your bucket of salt. I don't like ordering salt online; it always ends up getting battered. But you go into your local fish shop and get a bucket of salt. So whatever salt they have, it's good if they've got a bit of variety, because not everybody wants Red Sea or Tropic Marin or whatever. So a few different brands, and then dosing liquids as well, because those are the things you burn through regularly. And if you run out of dosing liquids, you need it stat. You don't want to have to wait for an online seller to get it to you.
That's like mega problem for me. Like if I run out, if that, like I can't remember how big the barrel is. It's like 250 liters, or no, I think it might be no, it's not 400. Either way, no, I think it's I think it's about 200 liters. If that runs out, because remember, I don't think about it for like 9 months of the year, and I can't actually see the bottom of it. All of a sudden, it's like serious.
Yeah. All my corals are dying. What's going on?
So I usually keep some sodium bicarbonate,
of course,
just as a precaution, just in case.
But those things are, and you end up going in there and then you buy a coral as well and all that sort of stuff. But those things is really handy to have.
There's one thing where there is the online cannot compete with a shop, and that's when when there's an emergency. Like if there's an emergency, if you need a pump because your return pump's not working, or a heater or anything like, as you said, that is when like you need them more than anything. And a good fish shop, and I have or like good relationship with the owner of your fish shop, can be the difference between like saving your tank and not saving your tank.
I had that. I had an emergency the other week, actually, when the exact situation on a Thursday at lunchtime. I had to go to my local fish shop to pick up a coral. It was emergency. I needed that coral straight away. So couldn't have got that online. And you want a bit of variety, because not the thing with like shops have a finite amount of space on the shelf, especially in the UK. It's a small country, it's small shops, small houses, all that sort of stuff. But they have a finite amount of space on their shelves, and every week there's a new company that's selling the latest dosing supplements or whatever. So they can't take everything. But you want a bit of variety, because not everybody will dose Tropic Marine all for reef, but lots of people will. Some people will Reef Elements, Red Sea, Aquaforest, whatever.
Reef method.
Exactly. So you want a bit of a mix, and but they're never going to be able to compete with online. So if you want the variety of online, fine, but you want a little bit of variety, and a little bit of variety is usually enough. And actually, choosing what salt you buy, one of the main criteria should be, which does your local fish shop sell?
100%.
Because if it's the DD stuff or the Red Sea Blue Bucket, your tank is not going to thrive because you've got Red Sea or because you've got DD. It won't make an ounce of difference. So whichever one your local fish shop sells, just use that one.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless it's like table salt, in which case.
Luckily, I keep like, I think 400 kilos of kilos of salt in stock sometimes.
How long does that last you? A week?
Yeah, I go through so much of it. I was thinking, like, do I need to do as many water changes as I do? I basically go through probably, I don't know, 140 pounds of it a month. No, sorry, a week. I go through a lot of it.
Pound sterling, yeah.
Yeah, 140 pounds a week, I reckon. Maybe slightly less.
That's 2 buckets, right? Maybe more.
Yeah, it's more. Obviously, I get things. It's a lot, basically. So, but then I remember I've got like big systems, and I get through a lot of salt, like selling corals and stuff like that. So,
nice to have. I've got 2 left on my nice to haves. What else? What have you got next?
So pest free is not. So pest free is not what I actually mean. Like, there are no pest free shops. There just isn't. A shop that's open on day one, that's just got new corals in, could possibly have pests in just as much as a shop that's been open for 10 years. It's how they manage the pests. Are the corals covered in Aptasia is a question. Do they have fish in there to manage algae? Do they have wrasse in there to manage? You can look at a tank and go, these people are doing what they've added things to help with the situation. Like, pests ultimately come down to the person buying the corals, if you see what I mean. But a good shop should be managing them with every possible way they can. Agreed? Yep,
completely. Yep. And you can tell if you see a frag with Aptasia on it, get over it. It happens. But there are times you can tell. You'll see a tank that's got like a small tank that's got a dozen Aptasia. Exactly. And that has not cropped up overnight, and it's just someone hasn't got round to cleaning it. That's just the way they run the place. So
I would love to see a go to a fish shop and for them to go open their weir box and go, look, I've got no Aptasia. I'd love to do that, because like it just doesn't exist as far as
that's the thing. You'll have pests, that's fine, and things like Aptasia, it's a pain, but whatever. If all the corals are being eaten by some kind of flatworm, whatever, that's a different story.
Yes,
shops will have things like that. All of them will do. Whether you see them or not is another matter. But if you've got a tank that's riddled and covered in it, that probably is an indication that they're not paying it as much attention as they should do. Whereas if you just see 1 or 2 here or there, or you open the weir box and there's a load, that's fine.
As you say, if there's it's unavoidable. It's literally, it doesn't matter how much you dip them. Some of these are microscopic, these creatures. So it's like you cannot avoid them, but it is down to the person buying them to go, I will do the best I can to keep this out of my tank. So
Tech HR has asked a question that's getting a bit of traction in the chat.
Okay.
What salts everyone use? What salt do you use?
Tropic Marine Pro.
So, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Me too.
I use it. And why do you, out of interest, why do you use it? Let's see if it's the same reason I use it.
I bet it is. So I think, I can't remember if I was using it before, but the BRS videos.
I was not using it before, and BRS went, this is the best. I'm now going to use that. So,
because it mixes it. I keep using it because I used to use Red Sea Blue Bucket and DD H2 Ocean. Those were the 2 that I used for years. I can't remember which way around it was, but they were fine. But I found that the mixing bucket was dirty and I had to clean it. And then when I switched to Tropic Marine, no such problems. I never have to clean my saltwater mixing bucket. Tropic Marine Pro.
Well, mine goes. If you think about it, goes directly into the tank. There is no mixing bucket. It goes. I separate the tanks, don't I? Which means everything that's dirty in the salt was always going to go in it, which is why I needed the cleanest one possible.
The only thing I'll say on that is, so on the video on Friday when I was fixing the K tank, which no doubt you watched very closely, I did 2 25% water changes back to back. So that works out roughly 40%. I know 25 plus 25 doesn't equal 40, but you're filtering out, you're changing some of the water you've changed when you do 2 separate ones. My magnesium was before those water changes was 1350 and my calcium was 440.
Yeah.
My magnesium after those water changes was 1230 and my calcium was 410.
I've noticed that the magnesium is lower.
Which must mean that the magnesium and calcium were really low in that salt mix. Because actually my other parameters, alkalinity went from 6.1 to 6.3. So basically no real difference.
Yeah.
And that was a huge drop that I didn't expect in calcium and magnesium.
Yeah.
I dose the stuff, so it doesn't matter, but you know.
Yeah. Is that your list done?
I've got one more. The other thing I said I've got 2 more. That was good layout space, but we've already done that. I've got 1 more. What else is yours?
I'm
much more
interested.
have you got?
Technically, I have 3, maybe 4. Well, some of them I've actually added while I'm going along. This is one of the ones I've added while I'm going along. And
I'll tell you what. Before you go ahead, we've only got 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a poll.
Yeah.
Of what's the most important thing.
Are you happy to go slightly over today? Are you, because I'm enjoying this. So if you're happy, then it's up to you.
Not much, because the longer it
takes too long to load. Yeah, I understand.
Anyway, but yeah, what's the most important thing in a local fish shop? All right. So one thing we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah.
Pricing. Oh, actually, we did.
I did. That was the very first one I said. Price. It was the very, very first one I said.
I forgot.
Have you even been listening?
No, I don't listen to you, Ryan. Don't listen to a word you say, mate.
Okay, I will go.
No. We've got to come up with the 4 biggest things.
Oh, I see. Also, price.
Yeah.
Staff would be one.
Staff. Yeah.
Variety of stock. Like I would do variety of stock, dry goods, and variety of stock, fish and livestock would be the ones I would say. Or the only other thing you could put variety of stock and include, and then the other thing you could put is atmosphere. Because I think atmosphere is almost all encompassing of your experience in the shop. Because if you have a bad experience, you're going back.
Staff/atmosphere.
Yeah.
Variety of livestock and variety of dry goods. Start poll. Go. Vote.
I wanted to know. Oh, well, you're telling them to go, not me.
Yeah.
I wanted to know your opinion. How important you think this is? A display tank. Do you think that's important?
Great shout.
But is it important or is it not important? Because you can have an amazing shop without a display tank.
It's not important to me at all.
Yeah.
But it's huge. So bearing in mind, you and I, it turns out, got into the hobby because of the same display tank at Maidenhead in Chichester.
Yeah, not quite, but I didn't get into it.
Okay. But we used to. But that was So absolutely, that's I think for inspiration. 100%. And when I was new to the hobby, there were a few shops that I used to go to because they had such nice display tanks, and that was where my inspiration came from. So for me now, no. And there are nice. Reefkeeper Mossend's got a nice display tank. It's like a softy tank. That's actually really nice. But I just walk straight past it. I never pay any attention to it. Every now and then I have a look. Oh, that's nice. But I never spend any time looking at it. So and I'm sure like Yorkshire Reefs has got one of the nicest display tanks I've seen. But I bet if I go in there every week for the first month or so, I'm like, oh, that's nice. But after that, I'll be bored. So it's important, but it's not important to me.
Okay. My other ones are...
What do you think?
For me, it's not important. I personally don't think that... As in, if the shop is everything else and it doesn't have a display tank, I wouldn't care. Because more often than not, display tanks can be incredibly frustrating because so many people want to buy from the display tank. And they go, I'm sorry, this is our display tank. You can't buy from it.
There's nothing worse than stuff you can't buy. And you're the worst at this. I tried to buy a trackie off you last week and you're like, my trackie.
That's my trackie, which I've had for literally years that came out of the water box.
It's in your farm.
It's only in the farm because it's not in the water box.
You wouldn't if you go into Next, they're not going to go, oh, those are my shoes. They're only on the display because I have to.
It depends if you're trying to buy the shoes off the salesperson.
Shirt off the guy's back. Yeah.
But yes, I've had that for literally years, and I've only got one, and I know you won't pay the money that will allow me to like sell it to you. If you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. If I had to make you, everything's for sale. It's just I'm not prepared to go that high.
Yeah,
it's a nice.
But loads of people want to buy that from me. It's just not for sale because it's
nice
mine.
tracky. Yeah.
The other ones I've put. One of them I've put is atmosphere. Like I think atmosphere. If this is a nice, welcoming place, that makes. But we've sort of covered that. If you see what I mean. The reason I put atmosphere is actually specifically for because it sounds so weird I know we've spoken about them quite a few times. I felt something when I went into Moss End, like it, and I will try to work out what it was, and it's actually the ceiling. It's like I got this real open, like it's a curved ceiling, isn't it? And it's bright.
Angled,
And so I hadn't even spoken to any of the staff at this time. It's just a feeling of when you're in there, it's open, and that it makes a big difference. It made a difference for me. I don't know if you notice that anymore, but a lot of shops are quite small and compact and try to get as much stuff in as possible, which I understand. You need to do that in shops. And obviously there's high rent or whatever. But the thing that stood out to me about Moss End was that it's real open.
Yeah,
it's real open, and it gives you a different feeling, I think. Whereas the Coral Farm, I'm the worst for it. It's about as cramped as you can get.
Yeah, you can walk past people without bumping into them at a decent sized shop, and I bet that's better in bigger countries like Australia and Canada and the US and that sort of stuff. But we've got small places over here. But yeah, completely.
I think we've basically covered that, and I think one of the most vital things is the person who is running the shop, because the person who runs the shop
set the tone. Yeah.
It sets so if you have a clean, good shop, the reason for that is because that person has gone, my ethos is that I want to have the best shop. So, and that filters down to everyone else who works there, I think. So, and that is actually the same for any company, I believe. If the ethos of the company, if the person at the top says the customer's always right, everyone else in that company goes, the customer's always right. If the person at the top goes, actually, we do no refunds for any reason, even if we know it's our fault, then everyone else feels the same way. Do you get it?
Yeah, completely.
So I think, and to some extent, that person can be the difference between a shop being successful or different. Because if that person loses their love of the hobby, if you see what I mean, then that's why it goes downhill.
Well, this is why no one buys Tedders anymore, because Elon Musk is an absolute wanker. So
yeah. That's it now for that. I don't know if you'll have time.
There's one more on my list, and this is well, I'll tell you what it is. This was on my nice to haves, and this was proximity to other shops.
Yes, yeah, I know.
So
what you mean.
this is a benefit. Like this, there are some places that will just be the only shop within a huge radius. But it's so good. And I don't do this so much now because there aren't so many shops, but I used to do it a lot more. On a Saturday, I'd be like, right, my day is I'm going to go to 5 shops. I'm just going to do the rounds and so many people did that. So if there's a few shops within, even if they're like 50 miles apart or whatever, that is amazing. And if there aren't other shops around, it's like, am I going to go all that way just for one shop?
I would like to have your opinion on something else, and this could potentially be a controversial thing.
Oh, we haven't done the news yet.
I know, that's why I said we might have to go over, because we've not done the news. And you're like, nah, just keep going. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. We might skip the news, but
would you rather have one really good shop or 5 average shops?
This is like, would you rather fight 100 horse-sized ducks or one duck-sized horse? One really good shop, 100%.
Because the reason I say this is because, yes, shops are getting less and less, and people are and there are some good shops which are falling, but there are also there's some bad shops where they're weeding out the ones that shouldn't really be going anyway. And I just wonder what people actually want. Do they want one really good shop, or do they want 5 average ones? And I would rather have one really good one than
completely.
than 5 average ones, is my opinion. But
Yeah.
But people might differ. People might go, no, I want the variety. I want the ability. I want the ability to go to another shop, which might be cheaper. Otherwise, someone's got the entire market, if you see what I mean. They can charge me whatever they want. Whereas if there's 5 shops, there's more fair competition. Who knows?
Yeah, this is true. I've just ended the poll from before. So in order of importance, the most important thing, number 1, is staff/atmosphere.
Yeah.
Number 2 is variety of livestock. Number 3, with just 12%, is pricing.
I was surprised by that.
So was I. And number 4, finally, is variety of dry goods. 5%, no one cares because they buy online, like I said.
I agree. I
That's
still
the order
know,
you'd have.
for 17 years.
Same.
I'm not a great customer. In fact, I'm not really a customer so much anymore because I don't need it like a shop, if you see what I mean, myself, because I have access to everything. But I'm still in contact with a shop that I have known for 17 years. And the reason I go there is not because it's the best shop. The reason I've been in contact with them is because, and everyone says this, they are the nicest people. He's one of the nicest people to deal with. And that's why people go there. So it does make a massive difference.
Yeah. Cool.
There you go.
The reason my face is going funny is because I'm getting no signal on my second monitor, so I've had to change over to a different monitor. I don't know why.
I've not even noticed. You always look funny.
No.
Hey!
I do want to do. I'm going to do. So there are quite a few news things. I'm going to kick them all into the long grass, but there's one story I do want to do. So let's do the news. And that story is. We have had it pretty sweet so far, Ryan, because this is the number 1 podcast in the world. Basically, you've got number 1 us, number 2 Joe Rogan, and then all the other dickheads. But we've got bad news. There's a rival podcast that we need to crush.
Okay, I'm interested.
And I don't know how I'm going to do this because I can't share the second screen now. Can I share a window? Oh, I can. Yes, right. Here we go. New podcast. It's called Submerged. This is on Spotify. If you search Submerged, there's quite a few podcasts called Submerged. So if you search Submerged Reef, this will come up, and that's what it looks like. So that's what you're looking for. And this is Parker's Reef, plus a couple of other people. Guy called I've lost the name now because I've lost my second screen. Guy called Jared, and there was another Australian name that I've forgotten. What's he called? Parker's Reef, Jared, Hadley. So I don't know Jared and Hadley, but Parker's Reef, obviously Sam Parker. So there's a new podcast. It's probably going to be awful because we need to crush it. And
crush it. Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Don't listen to it and go and give it a 1-star review. But it's
right. I'll add them to the list.
But it's Parker's Reef, so it'll be good. And the other two, I only found out about it this afternoon, but I started listening to it, and it sounds good. They're just doing a first episode in intro, but it's cool. So Submerged podcast.
The natural progression for YouTubers seems to be you have a YouTube channel for a period of time, then you get together with another YouTuber and go, hey, do you fancy doing a live stream? And then it kicks off.
That's easier than doing videos. Yeah, I'm up for it.
And then you do 89 episodes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that is the news. And we will actually, speaking of other YouTubers, I keep meaning to get Parker's Reef. I messaged him ages ago and asked if he's up for it. He said yes. And I haven't sorted a date yet. And someone posted on the Prestige Reef Talk Show Facebook group saying, hey, get Parker's Reef on. I will do it. I'm just terrible at organising this sort of thing. So, but we're going to get what's his face, Aaron's Aquarium on soon as well.
Have you contacted Peter yet?
No, of course not.
I love asking you on the stream.
I know
because I know he listens. I
Sorry. No, I'm terrible. I can give you all the excuses. This is who I am, Ryan. So
yeah, I know. Trust me, I know.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you all for joining, guys. We'll have a bumper double news next week.
Yeah.
And we'll see you then.
See you later.
Bye.